Carol, how are you today?
I'm very well, thank you, Sonia, and I'm looking forward to delivering this session and having this chat with participants and answering any questions that they may have. So thank you for inviting me.
That's all right. A bit low. Okay, is your mic up?
Oh, can't you hear me?
You're a bit faint.
Oh, can those of you in the audience, can you hear me okay? If you just tap in the chat.
Thumbs up.
Yeah, put a thumbs up that you can hear me. You can hear me clearly? Yeah, that's good. Great.
Right, brilliant.
Great to see
all right, thanks for participating.
Great to see some familiar names.
So it's going to be a good day. I mean, we've got till 10 past. I've got everyone knows me. We've got about 8 minutes. So let's see who's in the chat room and who's there. Shall we, Carol, see who's?
Yes, let's take a look.
Sophia Bailey Larson. Hello, my lovely enchanted counselor or counsel. Oh no, she's more than a counselor, isn't she, Carol? She's almost like a spiritual wealth advisor, isn't she?
Yeah, she's an amazing woman. I remember first meeting you, Sophia, when I first started my business, and I was really blown away by what you do.
Yeah. Go, Carol. Go, Sophie. So we've got Carol Edmondson. Carol Edmondson. I can't remember if you used to work at Ava, not LDA, GLA not GLA, was it Mayor's Office or Brixton Town Hall? Because you always used to come to the events, and that's what I always remember. So let me know if that's right. So it's nice to be in the room. Colette, lovely to see you. Hits well visually have you in the room. As you can see, it's only going to be both of us on the screen, and our fella Martin Luther King looking down to inspire us. Elaine, nice to hear from you. Sophia, Tony Highland, nice, great. All right, so we still got a way to go. It's got 10 participants so far. Anyone, Carol, you want to say anything?
Yeah, it'd be interesting to know which part of the world you're joining us from. Yeah. So if you just type in the chat where you're joining us from today.
Well, let's see who's going to be brave.
I'm in London, East London. Any of the East Londoners in the house?
Oh my gosh. I'm in Ealing.
Oh, West Midlands.
Forest Gate.
First and now Wolverhampton. Great to have you here. Yeah. Another London, Colette, London. Jai's in Erith in Kent.
Erith, Kent.
You've got Forest Gate. Oh, you're just down the road from me, Tony. I'm in Leytonstone. Costa Blanca. Oh wow, Sophia, sunny Spain. We could do with some of that here. Cold today.
She's too funny.
Originally a South Londoner. It's great to have such a diverse geographical location on as well. Another London.
Hi, Karita. I didn't see your name in the chat. Lovely to see you joining us. Like Jay, I can see Jay. Jay Jan, little Jay, I used to know her as, and now she's a wonderful little career woman, professional. Karita, doing wonderful things with her coaching company, Born with a Gift. And yeah, back in the day, Karita used to try and teach me how to use social media because I didn't have a clue. So it's interesting how all of us as women have come in and out of each other's lives throughout the years. So we've not stayed static. And that's what this is all about. I think.
Colette's got a question, Sonia.
Yeah.
You didn't say I was on camera, did you? She's not. No one's on camera. It's just the two
No,
of
no.
us. Isn't it?
No.
Yeah. So no, it's okay. It's okay. You don't have to worry. You're not on camera.
You know why she said that, innit?
Why? Still in a
they're
PJ.
putting their headscarf and night dress. Sorry, Chloe.
Now, whilst we're waiting, my talk is focused on sort of introversion and how to sort of be your best self and so forth. Just out of curiosity, and just type in the chat whether you identify as introvert, extrovert, or ambivert, which is a sort of bit of both. Extrovert, great. Another extrovert, introvert, ambivert. Extrovert, introvert. Another extrovert. That's great. We've got a nice mix.
Mm. Oh, we put another introvert.
The introvert?
Yeah.
I'm an introvert as well, and I fly the flag for introvert. Colette's saying she hadn't heard of ambivert until today, actually. Yes, yeah, so ambivert is, I call it the best of both worlds. They tend to sort of have both introverted and extroverted traits.
Well, is everybody clear in the chat room? Well, since we've got a small group, because we were meant to have had so many people sign up, but while it's small, let's make sure we're interactive and we have, not only do we learn, we're inspired, but we have fun, and then you want to come back again. So, and let it be worth Carol's time to spend more or less like a lunch and learn with us on this wonderful, motivational, magical Monday. So let us start. Carol, can you just give us a quick overview of your profile, and then for about 5 minutes, and some examples of what you've done, and then go into your presentation?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm Carol Stewart. I know some of the names that are online, and those of you that I don't know, it's great to have you online. I'm an executive career leadership coach, speaker, trainer, and author. I'm the founder of the Bounding Solutions and the author of the book, Quietly Visible, Leading with Influence and Impact as an Introverted Woman. And I coach leaders to lead with confidence, influence, and impact. I specialize in introverted women who are senior leaders. And as I go through my presentation, you'll kind of understand why. And I coach them to overcome the barriers and the challenges to being great leaders. And I also do a variety of talks, workshops, webinars, and trainings to organizations on leadership development, personal development, and career development. And I also do a conference for International Women's Day for Black women in the north of England, which is taking place on the 9th of March. So in a nutshell, that is who I am.
All right, anyone have anything want to challenge, not challenge, but clarify, want Carol to clarify in regards to what she just said? Or are we all good? Because we want to make this as interactive and interesting as possible. Okay, Carol, I'm handing the floor over to you. As you do your presentation. Yeah.
Right. So I'm going to just do a quick presentation, and then we will be opening up for questions. So, can everybody see my slides? Okay.
Yeah. You need to put it in that big one.
Let's see. Right, so you can't Can you see them
No,
okay?
go on, it was all right, Carol. It was okay.
Yeah. Okay. Right. I can no longer see the chat, Sonia, so I'm going to have to rely on you to.
All right, then put it in the. Well, where's your slide? Is it gone?
Can you not see it?
No, it's gone.
Okay, 1 second. Let me try something else. Right.
My cat is having a fit. Let's see. I'm sorry.
Right. Can everyone see my? Can you see my slides now? Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So welcome to Ask the Expert. As I mentioned, I'm Carol Stewart, Executive Career and Leadership Coach, Speaker Trainer, and I'm also a podcast host, which I didn't mention earlier. And I'm a LinkedIn 5 times top voice here in the UK. Received that recognition 5 times. And so what I'm going to be covering, I'm going to cover the top 3 challenges that introverted women leaders face. I'm going to share my impact success strategy, and this applies whether you are introverted, extroverted, or ambivert, and then we'll be opening up for questions and answers. So the challenge for people who are introverted is that we live in what Susan Cain, who's the author of the book Quiet, the Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking, terms the extrovert ideal, and that's a widely held belief that the ideal person, the ideal self, is extroverted, that they're gregarious, alpha, and comfortable being in the spotlight. And historically, that has been associated with being a great leader. And it's often the case of he or she who shouts the loudest are the ones that get heard, that get the recognition, and that get ahead. And there are a lot of misconceptions and misunderstanding around introversion, and people who are introverted can often get overlooked because they're not as loud and as gregarious, and they are more quiet. So it's really important to understand, if you're introverted, to understand yourself, understand what introversion is, understand what drains your energy and what energizes you. People think introvert means shy, lacking confidence, but it doesn't. It's all about how we interact and engage with the world and how we are energized. So people who are introverted are energized by going inwards, maybe being alone and having time just to go inwards, and are more concerned with the things that are going on in the inner mind. Whereas people who are extroverted are energized by things which are external, so being around people, that's where they draw their energy from, and being in environments where there is a lot of external activity, external to the mind, can be energizing for introverts. And it's not that people who are introverted don't necessarily like those environments, it's that it can be draining because it depletes our energy. It overstimulates our brains. Our brains become overstimulated, which make us feel drained, which make us want to retreat and go somewhere and recharge. And once you understand that that is what is going on, and you understand how you're energized and what energizes you and what depletes your energy, it's then a lot more easier to plan, to manage yourself, and how you are interacting and acting in different environments. So for example, if you know you've got a busy day of back-to-back meetings and then you've got a networking event in the evening, someone who's introverted is probably going to feel totally drained by the end of the day. So it's about planning and managing your calendar accordingly so that you have time for rest and renewal in between events where you're having to expend a lot of energy. And there is a lot of unfavorable bias towards introverts in the workplace. And here I've listed some of them. Research shows that 70% of people experience imposter syndrome. And this doesn't just apply to people who are introverted, it applies to extroverts, it applies to men and women as well. Invariably, when I do my workshops or do a poll, it's a lot higher than that. It's usually like in the 90s. And there was one workshop that I did recently where 100% of people said that they experienced it. And often when you are in the minority to the dominant group, you are more likely to experience it than those who are in the dominant group. And I see this translating to 3 common problems amongst introverted women who are senior leaders. They experience imposter syndrome.
Carol, sorry to interject. Are we meant to see other slides?
Are they not moving along?
No, it's only on. It's still on the first slide.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Let me see what else is going on.
But we're getting a lot of feedback. They like the sounds of the introverts. More
okay,
clarity.
that's good. That's good. Yeah. Right. Let me try this way.
There you go.
Can you see it now? Can you see the next slide now?
Syndrome? Yeah.
Syndrome, yeah. So imposter syndrome, and oftentimes this imposter syndrome has arisen as a result of them being made to feel that they're not good enough because they are introverted. It could be as a child being made to think that because they were quiet that they should speak up more, they should be more vocal. And I see this time and time again. I see it with people with their children who are introverted, making them be something that they're not, forcing them to be more outgoing and more sociable. But there's nothing wrong. If you let a child just be their natural self, they will be more confident, they will grow more confident. Whereas if you're constantly telling somebody that they need to be something else, or they need to be someone else, that's going to affect them as they grow. And then what happens is, as they get into the workplace, they become adults, they start to doubt themselves and hold themselves back from truly expressing themselves. And this is stressful. And then this can also present a challenge in meetings, because the way that most meetings are conducted don't allow for that diversity of thinking styles. Introverts typically like to think and process information before speaking, whereas in a lot of meetings, or most meetings, it's all about being put on the spot and expected to respond straight away. When I was doing research for my book, Quietly Visible, there was a piece of research that I came across that said that if businesses were if the performance of businesses were based on their performance in meetings and they were measured on that, most of them would be out of business. Because of the way that meetings are conducted, it then makes it harder to get their points across as they would like to, and they don't necessarily have the influence and impact that they would like. And the other thing is lacking presence. A lot of this again is as a result of the pressures that are put on people who are introverted to be something that they're not, to be extroverted and act in extroverted ways. But I have a saying that goes, you don't need to be loud to be a leader, but you do need to have presence, and you can have a quiet presence as well. Someone who I think is really good at having a presence is Barack Obama, former US president. He's known for being introverted, and he's really great at commanding the room with his presence. Someone else who has a lot of presence, who is introverted, is Oprah Winfrey. She has a great presence. She's introverted as well. And so there is a cost to this personally, to introverted women leaders, and it can affect them in terms of their promotional opportunities, getting their salary increases. If it's someone who got a business, not putting themselves out there and getting the type of work that they want, or having the kind of visibility that they need to have. So my strategy, it's a framework which I've developed over the years based on my research, based on what clients that I've worked with, and the knowledge that I've gained over the years. And I'm going to just quickly talk you through. It's like a framework that overrides or underpins a lot of the work that I do in my coaching, and it's something that you can apply whether you are introverted, extroverted, or an ambivert. in order to get the success that you want in your career, in your life, or in your business. So the first thing is about being intentional, and being intentional about what it is that you want to achieve. So having that clarity about what it is that you're working towards, what it is that you want to achieve, creating a vision and being clear about what that looks like, what that feels like, and what action is needed to take you there. And being strategic in your thinking and in your outlook about how you can get there. So thinking bigger picture and being strategic about it. And this applies whether you are a leader who is in an organization. It applies whether you are someone who is in business as well. Having that strategic outlook is essential for you achieving the success that you want. And success is subjective. So what success means to me could be different to somebody else. So it's getting clear on what success means to you and being focused as well. We have so many distractions, so many things that get in the way. So it's about having that clear focus about what it is that you need to be doing. Now, mindset, this is probably one of the biggest barriers. And I see this is about 95% of the people that I coach and that I work with, it's their mindset that is getting in their way, where we have so many thoughts. We have thousands. Some people say 6,000, some people say 60,000 thoughts a day, but we don't often pay attention to our thought life. And for many of us, many people are very much led by their emotions, and the way that they think affects how they feel, and they act and behave according to how they're feeling. And if you're feeling anxious, or you're worrying about something, or you're feeling fearful, then if you're feeling fearful, then it's going to affect your confidence. It's going to make you anxious, and as a result, you will either not do what you know you need to do or what you want to do, or you will do it, but because you're so anxious, you won't perform to your best of your ability. And so it's about recognizing that those thoughts and what you believe are getting in your way. And if you can change what you think and what you believe about yourself, you change how you feel. If you change how you feel, you change how you act and behave. And so it's developing that self-belief in yourself and your abilities. And you can do that just by recognizing, as I said, the thoughts and the beliefs that you have about yourself, what it is that you need to do, and just challenging them and changing them, rationalizing them, looking at, well, what's the worst possible outcome? And if that was to happen, what could you do? And changing it to something more rational and more helpful. And it's not just about positive thinking, because if you have an inherent belief about yourself, say, for example, you think that you are an ugly person, and you say to yourself, right, I'm going to think positive, and every day I'm going to look in the mirror and say to myself, you are a beautiful, special person. But if you don't see a beautiful, special person looking back, that can make you feel worse. So it's about identifying the belief and looking at how that is not helping you, how it's not serving you, and changing it to something more helpful, because that will help you to change how you feel and how you act and behave. And I know I'm just rushing through this because there's so much more that I could unpack about this, but this is just to give you some sort of like top level things that you can do, and then you can sort of delve more deeper in how you can actually make those shifts and those changes. And it's about having self-awareness as well, because when you are self-aware, it's easier to identify when you're getting in your own way. It's easier for you to see what you can do in order to get where you want to get to and what you need to change. And you can develop your self-awareness through self-reflection. When you're in a situation and you find yourself doubting yourself or holding yourself back, or things haven't gone the way that you want them to go, just reflect on what may have been going on for you and why you acted and behaved in that way. And by doing this over a period of time, you'll start to recognize when you're self-sabotaging, when you are getting in your own way, and what you can do about it. utilize your strengths. We are much more motivated, empowered, confident, and it's better for our overall well-being when we utilize our strengths. Too often we focus on those things that we're not good at, those things that went wrong, and I see this time and time again. I myself, you know, I have done it in the past. I remember when I first started doing webinars, and it was 2012, and I had a lot of people online. I think I had over my very first webinar, I think I had about 40 people online, and I got really positive feedback from the majority of people. They rated me a 5 out of 5, 4 out of 5. There was one person who rated it a 2 out of 5. I focused on that 2 out of 5 and thought to myself, oh my gosh, I must have been terrible. Oh, I'm never going to do this again. But because I'm quite self-aware, I recognized that I was self-sabotaging, and by focusing on that 2 out of 10, it was making me feel, it made me doubt myself. It made me sort of to think that I'm not good at this, I'm not good enough. And then I recognized that, why am I focusing on that one person? And when everybody else had really given me positive feedback. It's about being able to self-regulate and manage your emotions and how you respond to stressful situations. P is the present, and it's about having a presence. As I said, you don't need to be loud to stand out as a leader, but you do need to have presence. And that presence is about being visible, raising your visibility and your profile, being clear on your personal brand and what it is that you stand for, and how you are articulating your brand through the action that you take. So being visible, how you're showing up, being assertive and speaking assertively and presenting yourself in an assertive way. And there is Robert Patterson is a clinical psychologist, and he has an analogy for assertiveness, which I think is really great. And he likens it to a stage. And he says that people who are passive, they're sat in the audience and they're letting everybody else onto the stage but themselves. People who are aggressive, they are on the stage and they want the stage for themselves and they're pushing everybody off. People who are assertive recognize that there's room for everybody on the stage. So they're on the stage and they recognize that there's room for everybody else on that stage. And so when you find yourself in situations where you maybe need to speak up assertively, you need to be more assertive, then ask yourself, am I on the stage? Am I off the stage? Or am I pushing everybody off? And that can help to shift your mind so that you act and behave in ways which are more assertive. Developing your confidence at speaking, speaking up in meetings, public speaking, identifying ways in which you can be your best self when it comes to speaking up in meetings. So if you find that you need time to process information before you actually speak, allowing yourself to do that, and maybe just say to people, these are my initial thoughts. Once I've had a chance to process the information, I'll let you know if I've got anything further to add. Or if you can't think of anything, just say something like, once I've had a chance to process the information, I will let you know what I think. And being influential, developing your influence. And developing your influence is all about the visibility, about the personal brand. It's about how you communicate, how you listen, and how empathetic you are with people as well. And bringing people along with you, getting people to buy in to your vision. A is for alignment, and that is about positioning yourself for what it is that you want. And this could take, depending on what it is that you're wanting to achieve, this could be, there could be a variety of ways in which you can do this. Before I started my coaching business in 2012, I was a senior leader in an organization for the Ministry of Justice, and I used to manage a group of magistrates courts. And I got my last promotion as a result of positioning myself for it. So I'd been at an event and in a different region, And somebody from another region had said that they were going to be going on maternity leave, which would create an opening in that region, and that she was encouraging me to go for it. And so what I decided to do was make a sideways move. When I saw a position come up the same level that I was at, I applied for it, and I was successful at the interview. And the reason why I did that was so that once I was in that region, I could then start doing things that would make me more visible, taking on stretch projects, so that I would get seen by those people who are decision makers. And that's what I did. And then when the position was advertised, I applied for it and I got it. And I got it on my merit. And I do believe that positioning myself in that way helped. And there's many more stories I can tell you about clients who have done that as well, that I've coached to do that. Self-promotion. And self-promotion is something that a lot of people don't like or not comfortable with. Many of us have been brought up to think that we shouldn't brag, we shouldn't boast. That self-promotion is about letting other people be aware of your achievements and the difference that you're making. So rather than maybe viewing it as self-promotion that can feel self-centered, selfish, view it as letting other people know about the value that you bring to the table and the difference that you are making. And for the clients that I work with, who, when they come to coaching, many of them have been turned down from promotions because they didn't sell themselves well enough at interviewing. So they talk a lot about the we, or we did this and we did that, but they fail to articulate the part that they've played because they're not self-promoting. Many people think that their work should speak for itself, and in an ideal world it would do, but we don't live in an ideal world. And there's actually a phenomenon for people who think that their work will speak for itself and they'll get the recognition for it, and they call it tiara syndrome. Network and utilize your network. It's just something which many women don't do, utilize their networks sufficiently enough. And particularly for people who are introverted, because the environment of networking is one which can be overstimulating and it can be draining. And so if that's you, don't feel that you have to go to a networking event and work the room. Before you go to an event, identify those people that you want to connect with, so you can be very strategic about it when you get there and speak to those people. And introverted people prefer quality of conversation over quantity. So as I said, don't feel that you have to work the room. Think about who you want to connect with, who you want to speak with, and have those meaningful quality conversations. And take action. Focused, consistent action gets results. And what I've said earlier on about being intentional, be intentional about taking the action that you need to take. Be courageous, and don't be fearful of taking those steps forward. Manage those fears by challenging what you think and what you believe. So develop your confidence and identify if you're lacking confidence, whether it's actually competence rather than confidence, because sometimes we confuse the two. So is it that you need to develop a particular skill, get particular experience? And if that's the case, find out how you can develop that skill or how you can get that experience, and keep on practicing what it is that you need to do, because that will build your confidence. Challenge where you need to challenge, and display effective leadership. Develop your leadership ability, and portray that, and be decisive. So be someone who is confident at making decisions and developing your decision-making skills so that you are seen as somebody who is decisive. And be someone who is trustworthy, that people can trust. People buy from people that they know, like, and trust. This happens whether you are in business, whether you are a leader in an organization and you need to sell an idea, you need to get your team on board with something, you need to get the board to go forward with an idea that you've got. And you can develop your trust by being authentic, be yourself, because everybody else is taken. Be someone who is a person of integrity. Establish your credibility, and you can establish your credibility by becoming a person of knowledge and expertise in your particular field. And there's various ways in which you can do this, by whether it's through thought leadership, whether it's through speaking, public speaking, speaking on panels, and being reliable. Let people see that they can rely on you, that they can trust you. And before we open up for Q&As, I just want to quickly tell you about the very first Introverted Leaders Conference, which takes place on the 13th of September. So scan the QR code and join the wait list for that if you want to be part of the very first Introverted Leaders Conference. And the other thing that I want to tell you about before we have a Q&A is an International Women's Day Conference on the Saturday, the 9th of March. And do scan the QR code to find out more about that. We've got Paul Carrick-Brunson, who is the keynote speaker there. So I know that was a bit of a whistle-stop tour, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen now and come on and answer your questions.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay. So let me just, while our audience starts preparing some of the questions they had and some feedback based on your presentation. One of the things I took away from it is that it is often, so for me, it's branding, it's your personal brand. And oftentimes, branding has always been quite aggressive in the past, and there was never any joy in a soft brand. And now with AI, it's getting even more of a challenge, and in order to stand out in an authentic way. And it's such a busy market. So I think for introverts, it's really important to actually know their story and what they're communicating and what their brand stands for. What do you think?
That's right, Sonia. And Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, he's well known for the quote that your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. And so think about, what are people saying about you when you're not in the room? Do people even know who you are? Is what they're saying about you what you want them to say about you? And if it's not, what can you do to close that gap? And if you don't even know what people are saying about you, ask people. So identify people who you trust, who can give you some constructive feedback about how you portray yourself, how you come across. And don't just choose the people who are going to tell you what you want to hear.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
You need to get those fierce ones where you go, I don't know why I rang them. When you put the phone down.
Who will challenge you, make you feel a bit uncomfortable.
You've got to be challenged.
But it's for your overall good.
And also, when you get that feeling when you're challenged, and then you feel like, for me, when I'm going through such growth, and when I'm challenged, it'd be one word or something, and it'd be like something like take responsibility, or and I'll be like, and then I'll go through this whole plan and writing down where I didn't take responsibility, where I could take more responsibility. And so sometimes you beat yourself up, and you shouldn't, because you only need 3 points and move on.
And that is so true, Sonia. And for those of you online, Sonia was my mentor when I first started my business in 2012. And there was one time I was doing my very first workshop, and I sent Sonia a copy of my flyer. And like Sonia, this was a Saturday evening, Sonia sent the flyer back to me saying, no, it's not good enough. We must have done this like God knows how many times. It was going to and forth, and she kept criticizing it. And I was getting so angry and frustrated, thinking, oh my gosh. And I was telling my husband about it, and he goes, well, that's what you wanted, wasn't it? Tough love. And it was so true. And when I look back now, I actually cringe. Oh my gosh, was I really going to put that out there?
And I was going to say, wasn't it a better poster?
It certainly was.
And that's the thing about, I mean, we all can learn from everybody. We all don't. I mean, for me, I'm not the end. You know, there's so many more chapters to go, and it's going to be more interesting with the people you're going to be around, etc. And the other thing I'm conscious of is when you said the same, they're kind of introverted at the table, let's say at meetings or the boardroom, and they sometimes don't want to say anything because obviously they feel a bit out of place, or that sometimes the men may overtalk them and then take their ideas as theirs. But you know, it made me think of same thing or same talk. You know, the way it's like dress-ups, all these men, you didn't see that online filming was going to be a thing for you. Blockbusters, do you know Netflix actually went to Blockbusters and you know, the stuff that you think is easy. And my same thing, I was just saying, we've got to look at the post office scandal. That is such a bad scandal in that it lasted so many years. So many people went to prison. So many people died without clearing their name. So many people, and yet we haven't got the leadership that can complete it. So can you imagine if you're an introvert in that environment? What would you recommend to them?
Yeah, so what I would say is it's just about believing in yourself. Self-belief can take you far. And believing in yourself, knowing that you have something of value to bring to the table. You know, you've got experience, you've got expertise, you've got knowledge, and you have something of value to add as well. And it's about shutting down the noise and the negative voices that make you think that you've got to be like this, you've got to be like that. Be yourself, be your authentic self, and recognize that the value that you bring to the table, and you know, you deserve to be there, you've earned it.
I was also going to say, so my final thing based on your introverts was about women working from home. So not the senior director, CFO, COO, you know, those along the talent pipeline who are working from home. Do you feel it's a positive impact for them if they're working from home all the time?
It has its positives and its negatives. So when we went into lockdown and working from home, many people who are introverted told me how much they loved it, because it meant that they didn't have to go into an office, particularly an open plan office, and be around people all day and all the noise and all the drain. But what can happen is it can be, if you're not going into the office and you're constantly at home, it can be easy to get into that situation where you don't put yourself out, you don't make yourself visible. So it's about finding that balance of being intentional, as I talked about earlier, about letting people see you. One client that I was coaching last year, one of the feedback, she's wanting to go for a much more senior role, and the feedback that she got was that she wasn't visible enough at meetings, like, which were quite where there were sort of quite senior people there. She didn't have her camera on, and she didn't do that because she's introverted, the introvert drain, back-to-back meetings, but that was impacting how she was being perceived in the wider organization and at a much more senior level. So it's about finding that balance of whether it's going into the office 1 day a week, 2 days a week, or if you're going to constantly work, because a lot of people now are just working from home all the time. Think about the people who need to be seeing you, who need to know about you, and how can you make them aware of what you're doing and the results and the difference.
Just come up with new strategies, isn't it, for reaching out?
It is, yeah.
It's kind of new strategy. So you need new ideas in order to come up with stronger strategies.
And I had a couple of coaching clients that started new jobs during lockdown, and being introverted as well. It was like, well, how can they have an impact in, you know, a short space of time? So they did things like thinking about who they needed to connect with in the wider organization and arranging like one-to-one Zoom calls or team calls with them, just to get to know them, to find out about what they did and how, you know, they can support them, their department can support them, that sort of thing. So think about who in an organization who it is that you want to connect with. Also, when you're on virtual meetings, making use of the chat facility, and if there's anybody online that you want to speak to, just letting them know in the chat, that sort of thing. So even
and give us some reactions. We'd like some reactions.
I've got a comment here. Some extroverts have developed social anxiety since lockdown.
Yeah.
Yes, Lorna. And I had extroverted friends who, when we went into lockdown, particularly those who lived on their own, it was very challenging for them. Very, very challenging.
But you know, one of the things when I was doing my research about working from home, you know, BME women suffer more than other women. And then the issue was about not being at the right meetings, virtual meetings. So they miss out on the sexy projects and get done with the sort of boring ones, and then find it hard to engage because they're not around the water cooler. So they don't know what's going on. And so when they're not visible because they network differently, most men will be like, oh, I'll go into my manager and say, oh, have you got 10 minutes today? Whereas the women will wait and say, oh, I'll wait for them to do a meeting at the end of the month. You know, if that's it, you know. What do you think?
Yeah, and one of the challenges for Black and other ethnic minority women is there's so many, the intersection. So you have challenges because you're a woman, you have the intersection, you know, the more intersections you have, the bigger the challenge it can be. And what can happen is, for many of us, or for many Black women or ethnic minority women, we've internalized oppression. And this is probably a conversation for another day. When we've internalized oppression, you know, there's a lot of systemic issues at play here: systemic racism, systemic sexism, and we can internalize that, and that affects how we see ourselves, and as well as see the environment. And as a result, we don't necessarily have that psychological privilege when we're stepping into those spaces. And what can happen is we subconsciously, we can put other people on a pedestal and put ourselves down. So, and we don't even realize that is happening. And I was coaching a client a few weeks ago, and she was sort of describing a situation, and she was describing the other person, which was a white man, and she had her hand like that, and she had like, so this was him and this was her, just the way that she was talking. And I challenged her and I said, do you see what you're doing? You're putting him on the pedestal without even realizing it, that he is up there and you're down here. And what's happening is then you're not on an equal footing. You're not seeing yourself as equal to that person. And then that means that you're giving them the psychological advantage.
You know, I was going to interject there. One of the things, you know, when we were growing up, and many West Indians, when you were growing up, our parents, you have to be 110% better than. And subconsciously, we've brought that to the table, and we haven't even realized. And so when we go in the room, obviously we're going to be subconscious, especially if we're the only one, which happens a lot. And it's like that goes back to your personal brand, the way you communicate. As you said, you can't communicate like that. And feeling that I'm here, I know how to use the knife and fork when I come to the table, you know. But somebody said, a question for Carol: when did you begin using LinkedIn, and what advice would you offer to fellow coaches looking to enhance their presence on the platform?
So I started using LinkedIn 2000 when I started my business, but I really started using it properly in 2014 when they introduced the publishing platform, and I started writing articles and getting a lot of attention for my articles. So what I would say is be very clear about your niche. There's a lot of noise out there. There's a lot of as a coach, coaching is quite a saturated profession, but even though it may feel that way, there is room for everybody. So, but it's about being clear about who your audience is, what it is that you have to offer, and talking on LinkedIn about the challenges that they face, letting people see that you are the person that can help them, that can has got the expertise and got the knowledge, and be consistent with it. And so whether it's about starting a newsletter, I started my LinkedIn newsletter about 4 years ago. No, not quite 4 years ago. And I've got over 113,000 subscribers to my LinkedIn newsletter. And one of the things that I do is I do my newsletter, and then I put a little blurb about me at the bottom, and then I get people to go to my website to sign up to one of the freebies that I have on my website. So it's thinking about what topics that you can talk about that position you as the expert in your field that your audience want to hear, and being consistent with it. You don't have to do it every day, but whatever the frequency you decide, it's about being consistent with it. Connect with those people who are your audience or who have your audience, depending on what sort of coaching is that you're doing. If you're sort of going into organizations and doing leadership coaching, can look at the organizations that you would like to work with, and identify people on there that you want to connect with as well, and then to start showcasing your expertise and your knowledge and being consistent with it.
Look, one of the questions, what one of the sign-ups said, what I thought was quite good, is getting new clients. And often a lot of people say that, I need to get more clients, I need to be financially stable, I need to be this. But it goes back to what you were saying about your intention, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Sorry, I should have answered for you, Carol. Carol, you can't.
Yeah, so it's about being intentional. And if you're worrying about money and how you're going to pay the bills, then that is going to affect how you act and behave, and you're going to be so stressed about it. So deal with that mindset about the worrying about the money. And yeah, we've got to pay our bills. So think about maybe having another form of income, how you can generate income until your business starts creating that income. So it might be that you've got a spare bedroom that you could rent out. You can rent out a spare bedroom to think it's like $7,500 a year, tax-free. So that's just, think about other ways that you can get income coming in, because when you're so worried about it, it's going to affect you how you perform in your business. And getting the clients, it's I see a lot of people starting out and they're just push in terms of, here I am, buy me. It's about relationships, developing relationships. As I mentioned, people buy from people that they know, like, and trust. And you wouldn't go to bed with someone on a first date. Well, some people might, but you wouldn't.
What kind of date that was?
You would date them, you would nurture the relationship before you go on to getting back to that sort of level. And it's the same when you are trying to get clients. It's about building relationships, building that know, like, and trust, and doing those things that people see you consistently showing up, consistently that, yes, you've got the answer to their problem. And then it's about how you then move them from, whether it's social media or whatever it is, into a conversation. So not just straight away saying, buy me, because that puts people off. And they say that people need to, and this figure has actually increased from when I first started my business, that people need to have something like 11 different touch points before they make a decision to buy from you. And so that's maybe seeing you on LinkedIn, seeing you in an industry publication, seeing you in different locations, showing what your expertise is, showing what your knowledge is. So think about how you can showcase your knowledge and expertise, how you let people see how you can help them, that you are the answer to their solution, but don't just be sell.
That brought me back to when you were talking about networking, or my thing around introvert networking. It is aggressive. I think networking has become quite aggressive now in terms of people like, I want. And these Generation Z, they're hungry. They're not like, we're tired. So we turn up, we want to wear comfortable shoes now. We don't want to wear high heels. But I think there's a whole thing about also knowing not only knowing your niche, but knowing your environment. So you know where you should be showing up, and where you should be showing up online and face to face. I think that's quite important.
And
So
I would say,
sorry.
And I would add to that is showing up at the right places. It could be easy to just go to all these different events, but it's about knowing what. I remember when I first started my business, and I joined all these different networks. Some of them are paid networks, and I was going to all these different places. But then I began to recognize, well, the people that are here are not my audience. And yes, it's good to go to some places where it's not necessarily your audience, because the people that you meet may have access to your audience, but it's about thinking strategically about your networking, where the environments, as Sonia mentioned, that you want to be in, and how can you get into those environments as well.
Yeah, I've got a Jace Bajan has asked, do you have any tips on a strategic way to increase visibility when it does not come naturally?
Right, okay. So out of curiosity, Jay, what is it that you do? And then I'll be able to give you some very specifics.
I've seen Carol's come up. Jay? Oh.
A project manager for an investment bank. Right, okay. So if it's a case of that you're looking to get a promotion within the investment bank, or whether you're maybe looking to go externally and get a much more senior role, or get another role, LinkedIn, I would say, is like a great place to be. So what you can do internally is, if you're somebody that likes writing, you can write articles, whether it's for your company's intranet or company's newsletter, or even publications that are within investment banking. Identify those publications where you can write an article for them, because a lot of them have, on their websites, like ways in which you can contact the editor and contribute. So showcasing your thought leadership through your writing is a great way for people who are introverted to raise their visibility, because it helps position you as someone of knowledge and expertise. And
Carol, we've got 2 minutes.
Okay, so that's one way.
1 minute. Yeah.
Another way is like letting people within the organization see you. So maybe even your company's LinkedIn page, commenting on their posts and showcasing, so that people can see, oh yes, you're knowledgeable. So I had one client that did that, started commenting on the company's LinkedIn page. The CEO spotted what she'd put and asked her to get involved in a particular project that they were working on. They probably wouldn't have seen her otherwise if you hadn't been doing that.
And I think it's just thinking outside the box, because if you think, oh, I could do this, then you need to be more adventurous, and do the research. I think there's so much out. Look at, if you do the research, look at what people are doing, people who you are inspired by, then you should be good. Well, we're at 59. Carol, I'd like to thank you. This has been really good. Might have to ask you to come and do another one.
No, I'd be happy for you to do that for you, Sonia.
Oh, that'd be great. How have you found it before we
I've enjoyed it, and I've loved the interaction. So thank you, everybody, for being so engaged and interacting.
And on that note, thank you, Carol. Thank you, participants.
Thank you.